Welcome to yet another edition of the Stats and Stacks podcast, where today we're going over UFC Edmonton Moreno versus Albazi. First things first, make sure you smash the like button. Give a follow over on Twitter, over on Instagram, over on TikTok, wherever there's social media. There is the Stats and Stacks podcast. Coming off a very, very sad week. Profitable week, made a lot of money last weekend on the prelims. On the main card, I think I took every single dog. It was a passing of the guard card, and it was very, very sad to watch our legends like Rob and Max just not get the job done. People getting screwed earlier. Oh God, who was the vet that lost? Super, I don't even remember. It was just a sad. I'm trying to put it behind me, but whatever. It is what it is. MMA is a young man's game. We know this. We know what we do when we bet on our heroes, and it just doesn't always work out. But the prelims were amazing. It made all our money in the prelims, so it is what it is. It gave us that freedom to take dog shots on the guys we like. It just ultimately didn't work out. Not a lot of passing of the guard going on this card. A lot of young versus young, a lot of prospect versus prospect. A pretty decent fight offering. Whenever they're in Canada, they try to give you a whole bunch of Canadian fighters. Honestly, there's not a ton of good Canadian fighters, so it does kind of limit the card a little bit or make it a little top heavy, but it is what it is. It's a free fight night. You cannot complain about free fights. They're giving us 14 fights this week, so I don't want to lollygag too much, and let's just jump straight into the action. Very first fight of the night. Has no Canadians at all in it involved. We have Jack Shore at plus 215 going up against Yusuf Zalal at minus 265. Over under set at 2.5. Over 2.5 minus 300, under 2.5 at plus 195. Let's start with Yusuf Zalal because I love Yusuf Zalal. I always have. Everyone talks about Kevin Holland being the COVID darling, winning 5 fights during the COVID year. So did Yusuf Zalal. He was fighting it what felt like every week during COVID. He's only 28 years old now. When he was doing all that fighting during COVID, he was only like 23. Like he was super, super young, getting a ton of wins. Then he went on a bad losing streak. Okay. But the losing streak back then isn't as bad if you realize who he was fighting. We didn't know how good these people were back then, but he literally has he has an excuse for every single fight. I'm not gonna lie. Like obviously, you try to make excuses for your fighters, but the first fight in his losing streak was Ilya Tapora on short notice. So the current champion of the world, he fought on a short notice and was the favorite, mind you. It was a close fight, but Ilya ultimately won it. You also then had Sung Woo Choi. He took that fight on a week's notice. He was there for one of his. He was in the corner of one of his teammates. Sung Woo Choi's opponent fell out, and he decided, "I'll just take the fight since I'm there for the corner anyway." Ultimately, lost that fight in a pretty close fight, and then he lost to Sean Woodson, up a weight class. Pretty tough fight. So a lot of people scored it for Zalal. So he had a short notice fight against the champ, short notice fight against Sung Woo Choi, and then a short notice fight up a weight class against Sean Woodson. So pretty tough, all short notice, pretty tough matchups. And then he decided I'm going to drop down to 135, and he fought Damon Blackshear, who no one knew who that was at that point. He's a very good fighter, and ultimately went to a draw. Lost the first 2 rounds, getting out grappled, and then 10-8'd Damon in the third round. Got a draw, and the UFC cut him. And I was shocked that they cut someone as good and talented as Yusuf Zalal. Yusuf Zalal is good everywhere. He's a good striker. He's a good wrestler. He has good jujitsu. He has very good cardio. He's fought the who's who of the weight class, literally fought the champion. He does everything well. I like Yusuf Zalal a lot. Only cons I have on Yusuf Zalal is one, his takedown defense is a 60% rating. So 60% takedown defense isn't the greatest number. His volume isn't great. I wish he threw a little more when he's on the feet. I wish he threw a little harder, but he was a little bit of a decisionator when you looked at his wins during COVID, in the UFC just in general. Decision, 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 and you can't finish him. So his losses then were so he had 3 decisions, followed up by 3 decision losses, followed up by a decision which was a draw. So everything was always just go to decision. The UFC cut him, and then he went on a tear, knockout, first round knockout. Then he went to a decision in boxing, so it is what it is. And then a KO in kickboxing, arm triangle, rear naked choke. He's finished every single MMA fight since he's been cut. So he turned into a killer. They cut him and he got pissed off. So as long as he ups that volume and keeps that intensity, he is an absolute problem. And again, 23-year-old Yusuf Zalal fighting the current champion Ilya Tabora. That was a decently close fight back in 2020. So this guy is the goods. On the other side, we have Jack Shore. Here's this. One second. On the other side, we have Jack Shore. Jack Shore is a very, very good fighter. Craziness this morning. All right, Jack Shore is a very, very good fighter and someone that the UFC wanted to push as well back in the day. He's 29 years old, so again, 28 versus 29, prospect versus prospect. He himself is very good wrestling, probably better than Yusuf Zalal's, honestly. His jiu-jitsu is pretty good. I don't know if it's better than Yusuf's. We'll say it's on par. If it's not better, it's the same. His striking's okay. Yusuf definitely has a definitive striking edge here. Jack Shore is 76% takedown defense. He's fought a pretty decent level of competition as well. He hasn't fought the champ, but he fought Joe Anderson Brito, who's pretty good. He fought Tamir Valia. He has a win over Tamir Valiev, who's pretty good. He fought Ricky Simone, who was good. He seems to be declining. Makwan Americani was okay. So he has some like okay wins on his record. Hunter Azure's okay. But comparatively, I will say Yusuf has fought the better competition. I also think that Jack Shore is a bantamweight. He kept saying he had a lot of trouble making bantamweight and decided to go up to 145. And that's going to work against people like Makwana Americani, who gasses out along the way. But Joe Anderson Brito was just too strong, too physical, and he couldn't handle it. He was too small for the weight class. Yusuf Zalal, though, again, did have that stint at 135 that one fight. So this is a good matchup for Jack Shore, considering they can both make 135. They're both smaller 145 pounders. I will say Yusuf is the bigger fighter. Yusuf has fought the better competition. I do think overall Yusuf is the better fighter. If you just ask me who should win, it's Yusuf. If you ask me who's the better fighter, it's Yusuf. If you ask me who I'm going to bet on, it's Yusuf. But it's with a little bit of hesitancy, to be honest with you, just because Jack Shore is such a good wrestler. Yusuf's 60% takedown defense scares me a little bit. He does have a good get up game. He's very hard to control and keep down there. Um, but I will ultimately side with Zalal, but just know it could get a little greasy with these takedowns. If Jack Shore wants to come out, he finally has someone his size at 145 and he just wants to grapple fuck him, it could happen. It's not out of the realm of possibility, but it shouldn't happen. The pick is going to be Yusuf Zalal. The bet's going to be Yusuf Zalal. Next fight of the and that's a banger for the first fight. I don't know why that's the first fight and this next one isn't, but it is what it is. Next fight of the night, we have our first Canadian of the night. We have Jamie Lynn Horth at minus 200 going up against Ivana Petrovic at plus 165. There were three fights where the over under wasn't listed yet, so happens to be one of them. I'm sure it's women's MMA, so it's going to be something astronomical. Let's start with Jamie Lynn Horth. She's someone that I do kind of like because she's not supposed to be here. She's the Canadian, so she will have the crowd behind her. She's 34 years old. She has good striking. She has good jiu-jitsu. She has okay wrestling. 70% takedown defense in the UFC. That's off of two fights, so it's a little skewed, but it is what it is. Her cardio seems to check out, and she seems very physically strong. It's not exactly someone the UFC wants to come in and market, but she makes them because she's just an overall good fighter, man. Like she doesn't really have any weaknesses anywhere, especially women's MMA. You run into a lot of specialists. You run into a girl that can wrestle, and that's it. A girl that can strike, and that's it. Jamie Lynn Horth can kind of do it all. So that is something I like a lot about Jamie, and the fact that she has good cardio as well means that she's able to do all of it for a full 15 minutes. In regards to level of competition, Haley Cowan's not the greatest. She lost a split to Veronica Hardy. It is what it is. She has some amateur wins that look good. She has two amateur wins over Lupi Godinez, which is a nice feather in her cap, but Lupi is also a strawweight, and this fight is at 125. So she was the much bigger girl, but she's still an amateur, and it was amateur, but it's still two wins over Lupi. On the other side, We have Ivana Petrovic, who I am not a fan of at all. People think she's good, and I don't understand why. To be honest with you, she's 7-1. She lost her first career fight actually in the UFC. She lost to Luana Dread Carolina, which Luana is better than people thought she was. But if Ivana is supposed to be some hot prospect, losing to Dread Carolina isn't the greatest look. She's 30 years old. She will have a 5-inch reach advantage, which is pretty significant. Only problem is she doesn't strike anymore. She was predominantly a striker who like started grappling, fell in love with grappling, and now that's all she wants to do. She kind of reminds me of like a Mark Diakese who came into the UFC as like a Muay Thai striker, and then all of a sudden he turned into D1 Diakese and just wrestles nonstop. Ivana's the exact same way. Her wrestling's okay. Her jujitsu's okay. She's pretty physically strong as well. She's just kind of slow out there. She just tries to outmuscle you. Um, her striking again is kind of regressing as she's focusing on her grappling. She's just kind of physically slow out there, and she physically slows herself as the fight goes on. So it's going to be very hard for her to just go out there and outmuscle Jamie Lynn Horth because Jamie Lynn Horth is pretty strong in her own right. In regards to jiu-jitsu, I would say it's a wash. In regards to wrestling, I'd say it's a wash. In regards to striking, I'll actually give it to Horth. And in regards to cardio, I'll give it to Horth. So Horth should be the favorite, and she'll have the crowd behind her. I understand why she's the favorite. Do I like minus 200 in this matchup? No, not at all. Can I bet Ivana Petrovic in this matchup? No, not at all. So the pick is going to be Jamie Lynn Horth. The bet's going to be Jamie Lynn Horth, and that's going to be the way we're forced to go here. Next fight of the night. We are looking at Chad and Hellinger at plus 165, going up against Cody Gibson at minus 200, over 2.5 minus 270, under 2.5 at plus 180. Let's start with the Canadian crowd favorite here in Chad Ellenberger. Sorry, Ann Hellinger. Chad is 37 years old. As aforementioned, he's the Canadian, so he'll have the crowd advantage in this matchup. He has good striking. He has good cardio. Those are his bread and butters, man. He's very tough. He's very durable. I don't think he's ever been knocked out. He's been submitted a plethora of times, and that seems to be his Achilles heel. He's worked hard on his grappling. I believe he is a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt now. I think he became a black belt as of last year. So he knew coming in that most of his career losses are by being submitted. So he just diligently worked on it year after year after year and kind of shored up that deficiency. The problem is he still has 42% takedown defense. So as good as he is on the ground, it's not difficult to get him down there. His jiu-jitsu's improved, but if you're running into other black belts, you're still liable to get submitted. I mean, he got submitted by Jose Johnson just last year, like right after getting his black belt. So it is what it is. He just wants to wear you down. He has infinite cardio. He does not get tired. He's someone that picks up the pace as the fight goes on. So if he fights anyone with any sort of cardio issue, he wins. Charlampos Gregorio has bad cardio. He ultimately lost round one. And then he went out there and beat the hell out of Charlampos in round 2 and 3. Jose Johnson has good cardio, so he's able to keep it up and get the finish in round 3. Alatang Haley has good cardio. He ultimately just got overpowered. There's nothing he could do. Jesse Strader has terrible cardio, and he got the finish in round. And Chad got the finish in round 3. Muin Gaffarov on Contender Series has bad cardio. He was able to go out there and get a split decision win. It was a little questionable, but still got the decision win. Brady Heistand, before the UFC, is someone that's known for having bad cardio. He got dominated 10-8 in round one, and then ultimately got there and got the finish in round 3. There's a ton of round 3 finishes, a ton of split decision finishes, just because, even the fight before Brady Heistand, round 3 finish. Like, it's because he wears on you. His cardio is good. You get tired from whooping his ass round 1, and then he comes out like a bat out of hell and dominates you round 2 and 3. On the other side, we have Cody Gibson, who I like quite a bit. But he's 37 years old, and his biggest detriment is his cardio. So this is going to be interesting. Cody has a 7-inch reach advantage. He has good striking. He has okay wrestling. His jiu-jitsu is okay. He finished his last fight via submission. He's a very, very fast starter. He seems to always win round 1 in all of his fights, but he does slow down, and he can get finished or gas out later on in the fight. So I definitely expect Cody Gibson to go out there and dominate round one. Round two is going to be pretty 50-50, and round three is going to be all Chad. I can see that coming a mile away. So, what do you do with this fight? I think Cody's awfully durable. I'd probably take the over to be safe. The pick is going to be Chad, though, just because the crowd is there. I would probably look at it Chad by split. The crowd might influence the judges a little bit. Or you could just look to live bet. Cody's going to win round one. If he doesn't finish Chad right away with a submission that everyone seems to do, then you can take a peek at what Chad's live line is. And this has a live bet written all over it. So the pick is going to be Chad. The bet's probably going to be Chad or the over. But if you want to get fancy, you can take a look at that split, or you can live bet Chad if that number's crazy, because it's already plus 165. If that thing shoots up to like plus 400, I'm taking Chad in round two. Next fight of the night, we have Series CD at minus 150 going up against Garrett Armfield at plus 125. Over under set at 2.5. Over 2.5 minus 180. Under 2.5 at plus 140. This fight is one of the most 50-50 fights on the card. I keep going back and forth here. I think it's the fight I'm most excited for. I think it's the one of the most fun fights on the card. CD is just all action all the time. He's 28 years old. He is a Canadian in this circumstance. Well, just in general, he's Canadian. He has a 2 inch reach advantage. He has good striking. He has good volume. He has okay jiu-jitsu. His wrestling's all right. His level of competition could be better. 10-2. The best guy he's fought is honestly probably the Ramon guy. That he fought twice back to back, Ramon Tavares. If not Ramon, you could say Martin Vogel, or sorry, Mateo Vogel. Is pretty decent. He ended up losing that fight. Um, but again, he pressures a ton. He'll sprinkle in takedowns here and there just to keep you honest. But that's because he has good cardio. He's a pressure striker with very good cardio that will try to trick you and sprinkle in takedowns just to keep you on your toes. He's a very good strategist, a very good fighter, very fun, action packed fighter. He doesn't stop throwing strikes ever. He doesn't stop going forward ever. And he doesn't seem to get tired ever. On the other side, we have Garrett Armfield, who is also 28 years old. This is the second time he's taken on a Canadian prospect in Canada this year, unless the Brad Katona fight was last year. He did win a split decision over Brad Katona. I can't remember if that was this year or end of last year or early this year. He's 28 years old. He has very good striking. He has the body of a wrestler, but he's a striker, which is interesting. His jiu-jitsu is okay. It wasn't great, and he's worked on it a ton. He's been training with Trey Ogden, who is just like a jiu-jitsu whiz, so good on him. His wrestling's okay. It's improved. It's showing a 60% takedown defense, but he fought Brad Katona, who's a really good wrestler. He fought Brady Highstand, who does nothing but spam takedowns. He fought Tsushima Kazama, who does nothing but spam takedowns. He fought David Onama, who's not the world's greatest wrestler, but was much, much larger than him and ultimately got him down to the ground. So, yeah, 60% takedown defense against a much larger man and people that solely wrestle. Or not solely wrestle for Brad, but are decent wrestlers. He's just very boxing heavy. He doesn't throw a lot of kicks. He doesn't really shoot any takedowns, but he himself likes to pressure forward. He's definitely fought the better level of competition. Again, fighting Brad Katona, fighting David Onama. These are very, very good fighters. But he's just a pressure forward boxer who's always in exciting fights. CD is a pressure forward kickboxer who's always in exciting fights. And now they're fighting each other. Both are pretty durable. Both are pretty hard to finish. I've seen both chin checked in the past, so I'm not saying that neither one can go out. But I don't know who's going to take a backward step. If anyone, I would say it's Armfield. CD does pressure a ton, and he can sprinkle in that takedown to make Armfield back up. But this is just fight of the night written all over it. I'd rather just sit back, relax, and not take a shot on it. The line is close for a reason. CD just lost a split decision to someone who's predominantly a boxer. Garrett Armfield Has lost to kickboxers in the past. They're kind of both each other's kryptonite. So I don't know. I think it's just a fun fight. If anything, it's a dog or pass situation. So I'm going to kind of take the bitch way out. I'm going to pick CD since it's his hometown. Maybe he gets some hometown cooking. But the bet would just be whoever the dog is. And the dog right now is showing Armfield. So the pick is CD. The bet is just a straight dog or pass with Garrett Armfield. He did it before. Maybe he'll do it again. You could test that over under. But again, both these guys have been chin checked. I'd rather just enjoy the fight, take the dog, or not bet it at all. Dog or pass. Next fight of the night, we have a little bit of bias. We have Alexander Romanov at plus 100 going up against Rodrigo Nascimento at minus 120. Over under set at 1.5. Over 1.5 minus 180. Under 1.5 plus 140. Let's start with Alexander Romanov because I love this guy. I'm the only guy that loves this guy. Everyone hates Alexander Romanov. He has to be one of the most hated fighters in the betting community. I think he's awesome. He's 33 years old. He is really good wrestling. Probably top three, top four wrestling in the weight class. His jiu-jitsu is okay. His striking is improved, but it's still not great. It's okay striking. The problem with Romanov and the reason everyone hates Romanov is because he is ass cardio and he quits. He has zero heart whatsoever. He's a definition of good hammer, bad nail. When he's the better fighter, he ragdolls 265-pound men. Like he picks them up and just makes them do backflips over his shoulders, and he just lap drops them all over the place, double leg, and picks them up. Like he is literally picking up and slamming 265-pound men, getting on top of them, and then ground and pounding them to shit. He's forearm choking black belts. Like he's intense. He's crazy. Like he's very, very, very good. But if you give him a little resistance, he fucking crumbles. Alexander Volkov uh, sprawled and he just freaked out and ultimately just quit. Jailton Almeida got the takedown and did Jailton Almeida things and got a rear naked choke in round one. Um, who else beat him? Marcin Tambora got tossed around and got 10-8'd in round one, but didn't get knocked out. So he didn't really know what to do. He gassed himself out with all those slams, and Tybora slowly took over and ultimately won the fight. So, yeah, I'm not saying he's a quitter, but if things aren't going his way, he seems to not look the same out there. But when things are going his way, this dude is absolutely dominant and he's very fun to watch. On the other side, we have Rogerio Nascimento. I don't think too highly of Nascimento. He's 31 years old. He's gonna have a 5-inch reach advantage here. He's somebody that loves the pressure forward, which I don't really like going against Romanov. He has okay striking. He has okay jujitsu. He does somewhat know what a sprawl is. He's just a little slow out there, but he knows what he's supposed to do. He has 76% takedown defense, but the guys trying to take him down are not anywhere near Romanov's caliber. I mean, he has 76% takedown defense going up against Derek Lewis, who also took him down. Dontel Mays, Alir Latifi, Tanner Bozer, Alan Badeau, Chris Dawkins. Like, who's supposed to take him down? 76% is actually too low going against them. And again, his very last fight, he got lateral drop by Derek Lewis. That's scary. That's scary going up against a crazy Romanian wrestler in Alexander Romanov. You can't be getting thrown to the ground by Derek Lewis and then take on an OV. That's sketchy. But he does have okay cardio. Um, he has good volume. He's a little hittable on the feet. But I don't know. I cannot unsee him getting taken down by Derek Lewis. He's also a little chinny. So Romanov is not a striking threat at all. But he does hit decently hard. So Romanov could potentially take him down and ground and pound him, or some. I probably won't submit him. He can take him down and ground and pound him. Romanov can catch him with something on the feet, or Nascimento sprawls somehow, and then picks apart Romanov, and Romanov quits. So I don't hate the under in this. This is being plus money at under 1.5. If Romanov wants out, it's not going to take him a round and a half to think of it. If Romanov is just dominates Nascimento, I don't see Nascimento's chin holding up for 2 rounds. So I kind of like the under 1.5 in this matchup. Or I can just bet my boy at Alexander Romanov. Never turn your back on your boys. So the pick is going to be Romanov. The bet's going to be the under, but I'll probably have a little sprinkle on Romanov as well as a dog. Next fight of the night, we're back to Team Canada. We have Charles Jourdain at minus 125, going up against Victor Henry at plus 105. Over under set at 2.5. Over 2.5 minus 345. Under 2.5 plus 205. Let's start with Charles Air Jourdain. Charles Jourdain, he's going to have the crowd behind him. He's 28 years old. He has good striking. He's a Brazilian Jiu Jitsu black belt. He's good Jiu Jitsu. He has a ton of volume. Biggest problem with Charles Jourdain is this little thing we call wrestling. Can't do it. He tried to utilize it offensively against Gene Silva in his last fight, which is very interesting to watch. It ultimately didn't work out. He got knocked out for the first time in his career. But he has 48% takedown defense. If you're fighting Charles Jourdain, just know if you need to, you can get him down to the ground. He also doesn't really have a ton of power. So there's not a lot to worry about when you're on the feet outside of just all that volume coming your way. He's fought a good level of competition, but every time he takes that step up, he seems to struggle. He's fought guys like Nathaniel Wood. He's fought guys like Andre Touchy Feely, but he's not really getting like a ton of those wins. He's fighting them. He fights everyone very close. Every he fights the level of his competition. He's a good fighter, but he's not anything to write home about. On the other side, we have Victor Henry, who just nobody knows. Victor Henry's 37 years old. He came into the UFC way too late. He was 35 when he debuted. I wish he was here much earlier. He has good striking. He has a ton of volume. He has 83% takedown defense, where he is difficult to get down there. Himself, he doesn't have a ton of power, but he has good jiu-jitsu. He has good cardio. You can chin check him. I've seen him wobbled multiple times. He's never been knocked out, but I've seen him wobbled on at least 3 or 4 different occasions. So he's got to watch out. Being 37 years old, eventually your chin will go out. I just don't think Charles Jourdain is that guy. He doesn't really hit that hard. So at the end of the day, you have two durable, high volume strikers. This also kind of has split written all over it. I don't really want to play that game. Would rather not even pick a side here. Gun to my head, I'll go ahead and I'll take Charles Jourdain. But I'll probably ultimately just bet the over. Neither one. There's only been one knockout between the two, and neither one have a ton of powers. Neither one should submit the other. They both have Brazilian Jiu Jitsu black belts. So I'm just going to take the over. Pick is Jourdain. The bet is the over 2.5, or fight to go the distance. Next fight of the night, we have another Team Canada representative and Jazz Davicius as minus 205 favorite, going up against Ariana Lipski at plus 170. Over under set at 2.5. Over 2.5 minus 295. Under 2.5 at plus 190. Let's start with Jasmine Jazz Vicious. A lot of people love this girl. I think she kind of sucks, to be honest with you. She's gotten much better. As much as I thought she was bad, she has improved. She's 35 years old, but she's actually not a finished product. She started fighting very late in her life. I think she was like 29 or maybe 30 years old when she started fighting. So you can see it. She's just very, very green. She has okay wrestling, but it's a little overrated. She's just bigger than you. She's very good at cutting weight. She will body lock you and take you down to the ground. She can't chain wrestle. She doesn't really have a good double leg. She doesn't have any sort of single. All she does is body lock you and drag you to the ground. And once you get down to the ground, she does have good top control. She does have a vicious ground and pound game. Her jiu-jitsu is okay. It's not great, but she's very good on staying on top, and she's very good at ground and pounding. She does concern me a little bit with her cardio. She does slow down in a lot of her fights, most of her fights. And when she is forced to stand, she's a little hittable. She doesn't have the greatest striking in the world. She's tough. She's durable. She'll continue to pressure forward, but she'll eat strikes as she's sitting there marching towards you. You can punch her in the face a million times. She doesn't believe in head movement. On the other side, we have Ariana Lipski, the Queen of Violence, who is no more. She's now Ariana De Silva. And shout out to Diehard MMA podcast with the Rory McDonald comparison. She was just talking about finding the Lord and not really wanting to hurt people anymore, which is weird being in the UFC. So if you don't have that killer instinct, you're very hard to bet on. She's 30 years old. She has good striking. She has good jiu-jitsu. 71% takedown defense, and that's key because it used to be a lot worse. She used to be the easiest girl to just take down and ground and pound. Antonina Shevchenko took her down and dominated her on the ground and got the KO. Uh, Montana De La Rosa took her down, dominated, and got the KO. Like, if you take her down, you're going to KO her. If you keep it on the feet, Priscilla Cachoeira caught her and knocked her out on the feet. She does not have a good chin, and she had terrible takedown defense. So that seemed to be her issue. She shored that up. Ever since the JJ Aldridge fight, her takedown defense has looked much better. I know she gave up 5 to Karina Silva, but Karina Silva was chain wrestling, and she is a very good like first defense. And she has very good hips now. Her takedown defense has improved leaps and bounds. She just doesn't want to hurt anybody anymore, so that's very concerning, especially as a chinny fighter. To get stuck on bottom when you do take her down, she just you never know what version you're getting. She's looked great certain days. The fighter that went out there and fought Casey O'Neill is a top 10 girl in the world. The girl that went out there and fought Karina Silva in her last fight could get cut. So it's Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. You never know what version of Ariana you're going to get. I do not like the line of Jasmine being minus 205, but Jasmine in Canada doesn't lose. I don't think she's ever lost in Canada, and I don't see her starting now. So let's just hope that it's Bad Lipski that pops up. In that case, we'll go ahead and pick Jasmine Jasdovicius. In regards to a bet, it's a complete stay away. But I will say Kareem Silva, all 5 of her takedowns were body locks, and that's all Jasmine does. So I think this is a Jasmine fight. Pick is Jasmine. Gun to my head, I would bet Jasmine, but this is one to kind of just stay away from. Next fight of the night, we have Amon Zahabi at minus 115 going up against Pedro Munoz at minus 105. Over 2.5 minus 500, under 2.5 plus 245. Someone tell me what I'm missing. I have no idea why Pedro Munoz is the dog to Amon Zahabi. Amon Zahabi's not good. Amon Zahabi is the definition of pampered. But let's start with Pedro Munoz. Probably the main reason he's a dog is because he's 38 years old. He's old as fuck. He's almost 40. He's fought the who's who of the competition or the division. He's fought Chito Vera. He's fought Sean O'Malley. He's fought Jose Aldo. Like he's fought the best guys at the weight class, literally. He has world class jiu-jitsu. He has very good striking. He has a ton of volume. He has 82% takedown defense, so he's very difficult to take down if you want to do that route. He's very durable, has never been knocked out. Problem is, he has such good jujitsu and he doesn't wrestle. He refuses to use it. He will not use his black belt. He just wants to go out there and scrap and have a good time. And he does a good job at it. Again, he's 20-9. He's losing to Frankie Ager in questionable fights. Kyler Phillips went out there and won. Marlon Vera. Like these are all Dominic Cruz. These are all top 10 guys that he loses to. He's beating. If you give him a top 15 and lower, the Chris Gutierrez, the Jimmy Riveras of the world, he's going to go out there and win. If you give him the top 5 of the weight class, the Jose Aldos, the Aljamain Sterlings, the Marlon Veras, he's going to lose. So it's really a matter of who he's fighting. He's fighting Amon Sahabi, who is nowhere near the top, not even near the top 15. Amon Sahabi is also 36 years old. And when I say he's had a pampered record, I mean his brother, it was the trainer for GSP, and essentially just gave him the easiest matchups they could find on the regional scene. His older brother, handpicked all of his fights on the regional scene, and since he's been in the UFC, which has been since 2017, he's fought who is this? Reginaldo Vieira. I don't even know who the fuck that is. Got to win there. He fought Ricardo Ramos, who's okay, and he got knocked out. He fought Vincent Morales, who got cut from the promotion, is on their second stint, and lost. And they're like, whoa, 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 whoa. Let's dial this back a little. Let's give him Draco Rodriguez, who got 0 wins in the UFC. Let's give him Ricky Tercios, who has what 1 win in the UFC. Let's give him a Richie Lang, who's a former 125 pounder. And then the Javid Basharat was a good win. I'll give him that one. It was a close fight. He did get outstruck, but he had the more power. He's predominantly a counter striker. Of a 3.5 inch reach advantage here, but Pedro always has a reach disadvantage. He's used to it. You can't beat someone like Javid and then keep cherry picking fights. He has to fight a real fighter now. He's very low volume. He's very hittable. He himself won't wrestle. All he wants to do is circle around and counter strike. That's all he wants to do. Well, Pedro leg kicks a lot. Pedro throws volume A lot. He's going to give Eamon a lot to Counter Strike, but Eamon's gas tank isn't the greatest. Pedro could just outwork him. Eamon doesn't hit that hard, so I don't think Munoz, who's never been knocked out, is scared of the knockout. I think he just outworks him, outworks him, outworks him. I know Eamon is the hometown guy, but it is hard to look great scoring if all you do is Counter Strike. So the pick is going to be Munoz. The bet's going to be Munoz. Watch me get egg on my face and we get a little hometown cooking, but I'm willing to take that shot with Munoz at dog money. I'd be shocked if this line goes off and he's still a dog. Get Munoz while he is the dog price. Next fight of the night, we have Mike Malott, minus 250, going up against Trevin Giles at plus 205. Over 1.5 is minus 140. Under 1.5 at plus 110. Let's start with the Canadian and Mike Malott. Uh, Mike Malott is going to have the crowd behind him. As aforementioned, he is the Canadian in this instance. He's 32 years old. He has really, really good jiu-jitsu. Everyone's going to talk about him being the jiu-jitsu coach for Team Alpha Male. He's not even there anymore, but he was a jiu-jitsu coach for Team Alpha Male for quite some time. He has sneaky good wrestling to go with his jiu-jitsu. And his striking's not the greatest. It's clean. It's very, very clean. It's very, very crisp. It's very, very powerful. With how hard he hits, it makes up for how robotic it is a little bit. But although it looks a little stiff at times, it's just very tight. It's very, yeah, tight is probably the best word I can think of. It's good. It's good striking. And he has all that power to go with it, so he's using it correctly. His level of competition's a little iffy. He has two career losses. They're to Neil Magny and to Hakeem Dawodu. So I mean, those are okay fighters. You shouldn't be losing to them, honestly. Adam Fugit, Johan Lioness, Mickey Gall, they're all okay wins, but they're not anything crazy. You want to get really controversial. It looks like he can't beat black guys. He fought two black guys and he lost to both of them. So maybe he just has a lot of love in his heart for the black community. He has fought Giles before, but not in MMA. He fought Giles in a jiu-jitsu grappling competition just 2 years ago, and he did win that. So we know he's the better pure grappler of the two. The problems with him is that he has 16% takedown defense, and he has 100% finish rate because his cardio is ass. The dude just Neil Magny beat him because he flat gassed. Hakeem Dawodu knocked him out because he flat gassed. So it's not that his chin is that bad; it's that he gets that tired that he kind of quits in there, Alexander Romanov style. He has to go out there. He has to kill you in the first round, or he's in trouble. Adam Fugit, round two. Yoan Lioness, round one. Mickey Gall, round one. Shimon Sermatsky and Contender Series, round one. Solomon Renfo, round one. Craig, round one. Alan Wilson, round one. Like everything. John Williams, round one. Michael Imperno, round one. Everything is round one. The Michael Imperno fight is pretty decent to armbar him. But again, everything is in round one. So he has to go out there and kill you early, or he will gas out, and you'll probably finish him. On the other side, we have Trevin Giles, who is one of the most underrated fighters in the UFC roster, to be honest with you. You want to talk about fighting the who's who. For some strange reason, he's forced to fight every prospect. He is the ultimate gatekeeper. People say Neil Magny's the ultimate gatekeeper. Well, there's a gatekeeper before you get Neil Magny treatment, and his name is Trevin Giles. He's all over the place. He beat the likes of Ryan Spann up at 205. He beat Roman Dolidze at 185. Now he's at 170. He's fighting guys like Gabriel Bonfim, Carlos Prates. He's fighting Driscus Duplessis, Michael Morales. Like, why? Who hates him? Why? He had Gerald Mearshart and Zach Cummings. I saw Zach Cummings one live, actually. So he came into the UFC undefeated, big prospect. He beat Ike Villanueva, Ryan Spann, Brendan Allen, all on the regional scene and dominated. So it is what it is. He was beating great guys on the regional scene. He's beat good guys in the UFC, but all of his losses. I mean, Gerald Mearshart, he was dominating and he got choked out. It is what it is. Same thing happened with Jack Cummings. He was dominating, got choked out. But the rest of his losses, I mean, Driscus Du Plessis is the current champ at 185. Michael Morales is one of the top contenders in the world. Gabriel Bonfim, one of the top contenders in the world. Carlos Prates, one of the top contenders in the world. And he was winning that Prates fight, mind you, striking. So it was pretty impressive. He's a good striker. He's a good wrestler. He's a good jiu-jitsu practitioner. He's fought a great level of competition. He has 71% takedown defense. His biggest Achilles heel is his cardio. Just like Mike Malott, he has zero cardio. His chin, just like Mike Malott, once he gets a little tired, his chin goes away. So these guys are carbon copies of each other, and I think the UFC is just seeing which one they want to keep. It's just one of them is Canadian on the Canadian card, but I don't know, man. Mike Malott is for the culture, and he doesn't like beating black guys. So, and Trevin Giles at plus 205 is crazy. I don't want to pick Trevin Giles. I don't want to put money on Trevin Giles. My hand might be forced, to be honest with you. It really might be. So the pick is going to be Mike Malott, but I'm probably going to end up betting Trevin Giles, and it feels gross. Next fight of the night, we have Marc-Andre Barriault as the Canadian at minus 200 going up against Dustin Stolfus at plus 165. Over under set at 2.5. Over 2.5 minus 135. Under 2.5 at plus 105. Let's start with Marc-Andre Barriault. He's good, man. He is going to have the crowd behind him. He has good striking. He's okay jujitsu. Has claimed to fame as having good cardio. He's pressure, pressure, pressure with a ton of volume, kind of CD style. 67% takedown defense isn't the greatest number, but he's fighting Stolfus, who isn't the world's greatest wrestler, so he'll be fine. Yeah, he's just a pressure striker who will wear on you, wear on you, wear on you until he ultimately gets the decision or he gets the finish. If he runs into a specialist, that's where he struggles. If he runs into someone with just a ton of power, like Chidi Njokuani or Joe Pyfer, you can't knock him out. If you run into someone that's a crazy grappler like Anthony Hernandez or Jung Young Park or Andrew Sanchez, who are just really, really good wrestlers, you can't out grapple him. If you're a generalist like a Dolce Ulianbekov, if you're a Jordan Wright, and Eric Anders, Julian Marquez, these guys that are like good everywhere, he'll out generalist you. But if you're a specialist and you're very, very powerful or you have very, very good grappling, you can beat this guy. Dustin Stolfus ain't it. Dustin Stolfus has good jiu-jitsu. His wrestling's okay. His striking's pretty non-existent. It's gotten better, but it's still not good. 46% takedown defense himself, and he does have a propensity to slow down in his fight. So you're telling me it's someone that can't strike that well, doesn't have any power, and is just an okay wrestler with bad cardio. This is a setup fight for the Canadian. So the pick is going to be Marc-Andre Barriault. The bet is going to be Marc-Andre Barriault. Next fight of the night. I don't know why this is on the main card. It's kind of weird. It is what it is. We have Caio Machado as a favorite, minus 155, going up against Brenton Romero at plus 130. Over under set at 1.5. Over 1.5 minus 155, under 1.5 at plus 120. I do apologize. I forgot to mention the Victor Henry versus Charles Jourdain fight. That's going to be Charles' first fight down at 135. So that's another reason I'm not picking a side. I've never seen him at bantamweight, so let's just take the over. Same is going to happen with this Caio Machado fight. I saw this fight announced. I figured Brenton Romero was a tall guy. I figured he was going up to heavyweight like Kennedy did. No, Caio's coming down to light heavyweight. Kyle's going to have the crowd behind him because all of his regional scenes, although he's Brazilian, all of his Canadian stuff and his citizenship is in Canada, so he'll have the hometown crowd. That's why he's on the main card. Again, he's dropped his last weigh-in. He weighed in at 251. Now he's dropping all the way down to 205. So it'll be interesting to see how he looks. His striking's okay. His jiu-jitsu's okay. His wrestling's not great. His volume's okay. His cardio, he slows down quite a bit in his fights. He's a little chinny. I've seen him drop multiple times, but maybe that's because he's in the wrong weight class and he's dropping now. So I don't know. He just charges in a lot and just spams wildness. He's just wild. I don't really know how to describe Caio Machado. He's not good, but he makes every fight close because he's freaking wild and he knows what's going on the ground. He's not good on the ground, but he knows what's going on. On the other side, they gave him a fellow wild man in Brenton Romero. He's going to have a 3 inch reach advantage in this matchup. He's 28 years old. He has okay striking. He hits decently hard, but he can't take a punch coming back at him. He's been knocked out multiple times. This is the best stat on the card. He has a whopping in the UFC 0% takedown defense. Has never stuffed a takedown in the UFC. He counters very well, backing up. But he also gasses at his fights. He backs up quite a bit. He never goes forward. So Kyle just blitzing in like that, Brenton will be there to try to counter. He could catch Kyle. It's very, very possible. But if Kyle wants to utilize his Brazilian Jiu Jitsu black belt, again, Romero has a ton of finishes on his record by submission, but he also has been submitted. He's also been knocked out multiple times and 0% takedown defense. If you're desperate, you got to get him to the ground. Literally everyone's been able to do it. So I don't know what I'm going to do here. I don't trust Machado at minus 155 at all. I know he'll have the crowd behind him. I know he'll be like the stockier guy, but not a shot. I'm trusting a new weight class Machado at favorite money. The pick is going to be Brenton Romero. The bet's going to be Brenton Romero. Or you can just take the under 1.5. These guys bang. These guys don't usually go long, so the under 1.5 is probably the play. I'll pick Brenton Romero. The bet is going to be the under 1.5 at plus money. Speaking of over unders, this next fight doesn't have one, but I can tell you it's going to be something crazy because we have two power punchers going at it. We have Derek Lewis at plus 150, going up against Jonathan Denise at minus 180. We got no over under for this matchup. Let's start with Denise. He is 8-0. He is a glory kickboxer like Alex Pereira. He has very good striking. He has very good power. He has pretty decent cardio. I'll give him that. That's it. His jiu-jitsu is ass. His wrestling is ass. He was getting absolutely dominated by Austin Lane, which we just saw Robelis to Spain get cut for that. Yeah, that it happened to Denise as well. Problem is Denise got up and he knocked him out. He also fought Carl Williams, who is a good wrestler. Carl Williams decided not to wrestle for the first 2 rounds. The third round, he did wrestle, and Denise lost the third round. Why he didn't just wrestle the other 2 times? There's controversy that the UFC said not be boring, don't take him down. That was the big ordeal going in. I kind of believe it because Carl did not wrestle the first 2 rounds and he struck with a glory kickboxer. If you're on the feet with this guy, he's dangerous. On the other side, we have Derek Lewis, who is the exact same thing. He is a power puncher. He hits extremely hard. There's no Canadian in this matchup, so Derek Lewis will probably be the crowd favorite here. He's 39 years old, which is old for even heavyweight. A ton of power, most knockouts in UFC history. His cardio, deceptively okay for 15 minutes at least. 25-minute Derek isn't the greatest, but 15 minutes he can go. His wrestling's improved. We talked about him getting a takedown in his last fight. This sounds nuts. Derek Lewis has the grappling edge here. He has the wrestling and jiu-jitsu edge in this matchup. He's fought a great level of competition. He's just very, very low volume. He depends on that one-hitter quitter power, which I never want to bet against Derek Lewis. He can knock out any man walking. Derek Lewis catches you, you go out. So you have two power strikers going at it. It's a matter of who catches who first. We saw this with Sergey Pavlovich and Derek Lewis, and Sergey caught him first. We saw this with who else did he fight that caught him? Taito Ivasa. They both rocked each other, and ultimately Derek went out. I don't know if it happens a third time. Maybe the third time's a charm. I don't want to step in front of either one of these guys. You just take the other 1.5 is probably going to be juiced, and justifiably so. So the pick is going to be Derek Lewis just because he's more experienced. The bet is going to be Derek Lewis just because he has plus money. Honestly, that's the only reason. Next fight of the night is a co-main event of the evening. We have the return of Aaron Blanchfield at minus 135 going up against Rose Namajunas at plus 115. This is the third one that did not have an over-under for whatever reason. And this is a 5-round co-main event. I'm just now realizing that. Erin Blanchfield is 25 years old, making her return. She has a 3 inch reach advantage. Her striking's okay. It's a little overrated. A lot of just marching forward, Kyle Machado style. But she's gotten better, much improved. Very good wrestling, very good jiu-jitsu. Like that's where she shines is her ground game. We used to think her wrestling was very, very good. We don't know if it was overrated just based on the girl she was fighting. Because when she fought Meatball Molly, she made it look easy. When she fought or when she fought Miranda Maverick, she made it look easy. When she fought Sarah Alpar, she made it look easy. But, she had a little resistance against JJ Aldrin. She had resistance against Tyler Santos, and she had a ton of resistance against Manon Firo. So I think her wrestling was a little overrated, but it's still good for the weight class. And again, her jiu-jitsu is world class. She has a ton of pressure. She never stops marching forward, and she's a very durable fighter. On the other side, we have the former champ and Rose Namajunas. Only thing is, she was a former champ at 115. This fight is at 125. Rose is good everywhere. She has good striking. She has good jiu-jitsu. She has good wrestling. She's fought a great level of competition, especially, being a former champion. Only problem with Rose is that, again, she's not undersized per se, but she is one of the smaller 125-pound girls, and that she has 59% takedown defense. We just said Aaron Blanchfield's wrestling is overrated. But Rose might, a smaller 59% takedown defense, Rose might be one that she could get down. Amanda Hebus took her down 4 times. We had Tracy Cortez took her down 2 times. These girls aren't. Carla Esparza took her down 3 times in the most boring fight in UFC history. Weili Zhang took her down 5 times. Like, she gets taken down. She has a pretty decent get up game. But again, Aaron is a very good top game. So although I think Rose is the more complete fighter, we might have Aaron bully ball here, and Aaron has the better cardio. Rose doesn't have bad cardio by any means, but we saw Aaron break Tyler Santos. Even if she doesn't get takedown, she keeps shooting and she won't stop shooting. Minad Farrow didn't really get too tired. Rose, I don't think she'll get too tired, but she's so small. Minad Farrow was able to just shuck off Aaron Blanchfield because she was the larger girl. She was the bigger, badder girl, just more physical, and there's not really much Aaron could do. Aaron might be stronger than Rose, and if she's stronger than Rose, she's bigger than Rose, she has better cardio than Rose. She might be able to get her down, and that's a problem for Rose. 5 rounds, I think Aaron can find 3. So the pick is going to be Aaron Blanchfield. The bet's going to be Aaron Blanchfield. And that takes us to the main event of the evening. If you haven't already, give your boy a like. I have a freaking sinus infection. I'm fighting through. If you can't hear the voice, it sounds terrible. Give it a like, give it a smash to subscribe, give a follow over on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok to show some support. You got Brandon Moreno at minus 165 going up against Amir Albazi at plus 140. Over under set at 4.5. Over 4.5 minus 225. Under 4.5 at plus 160. Let's start with the former champ Brandon Moreno. He said he was going to take a year off. He didn't. Izzy said the same thing. He said he was going to take a year off, and he did. It didn't work for Izzy. Hopefully, it works for Brandon Moreno. Brandon Moreno's the former champ. There's no Canadian in this matchup. I will say, if the crowd's behind anyone, it will be Brandon Moreno. Everyone loves Brandon Moreno. He's 30 years old. He's going to have a 2-inch reach advantage, which is rare for him. He has good striking. He's a Brazilian Jiu Jitsu black belt. He's good Jiu Jitsu. He has good wrestling. 63% takedown defense is not a good number, but he does have a good get up game. So it is what it is. He scrambles very, very well. If you do take him down to create a scramble, it'll either get on top or get back up. He has very, very good cardio. Good level of competition, being the former champion. His losses are to the who's who. He's lost to Raw Dog, Brandon Royval, the GOAT. He lost to Alexander Pantoja, Davidson Figueroa. Like, he's only losing to champs and future champs. He's the real deal. Like, there's nothing bad to say about Brandon Moreno. He's a good fighter. He's a good guy. Wish nothing but the best for Brandon Moreno. On the other side, we have Amir Albazi, who's a little unproven still. If this is put up or shut up time, it's Amir Albazi and it's Brandon Royval who gets the next title shot. And this fight really dictates that. If Amir Albazi wins, they might give it to Amir Albazi. If Brandon Moreno wins, it's going to go to Raw Dog. So Amir is a lot to fight for here. He's 17-1. He's over at Fight Ready. He trained at Extreme Couture previously. Like, he's at good camps. He has good wrestling, which is going to be key here. He has good jiu-jitsu. His striking has improved a ton, but he is coming off of like a serious back or neck surgery, so do be cognizant of that. He's a little lower volume, but he's a little hittable on the feet. Again, he's not predominantly a striker. He's predominantly a grappler. His striking has improved. I give him all the credit in the world. He's worked on it. It's gotten a lot better. But Moreno's definitely the better striker. If he wants to win this fight, he's got to wrestle. He's got to wrestle his ass off. Moreno, again, 63% takedown defense. Albazi should be able to get him down to the ground. It's just a matter of can he keep him down there and for how long? Because every time this is on the feet, it's advantage Moreno. Every time it's in a grappling realm, it's probably advantage Albazi in the wrestling and the jiu-jitsu. It's a wash. But if Albazi took him down, he's probably on top. And lastly, the most important part of this fight is the cardio. Moreno can fight a full 25. He's been doing it for years. Albazi has had one 5 round fight and he gassed out. He got really, really tired against Kai Kara France. Uh, like 95% of the people voted that Kai Kara France won that decision, but Amir Albazi ultimately got the nod to get the 17-1. He's coming off of some controversy, coming off of an injury. Level of competition, Kai Kara France is a great win, but no one really thought he won the fight. But it was close. Alexander Costa is a good fighter, but that's not a Pantoja raw dog level. Francisco Figueroa, Zelga Subagulov, like these are okay fighters, but they're not top five guys. So he's got to prove it. He's beaten one in a very controversial manner with the split decision that no one thought went his way. So now he's got to prove it against an even tougher competition than Brandon Moreno. So the pick is going to be Brandon Moreno. The bet's going to be Brandon Moreno. Amir Albazi has to prove it to me. But let's see what happens. And that's UFC Edmonton. It's a very fun fight card. It's very free. So let's just try to make some money off it and enjoy the show. Let's get it.